Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the One More Jump podcast, the 50th episode of the One More Jump podcast. We're so happy that this thing is still going and people still want to listen to it. We're just really pumped up about it. Before we get into the episode today, wanted to talk to you a little bit about our sponsor, PVR. PVR stands for Pole Vault Rental, and it is the groundbreaking pole rental app that is going to just change everything. We all know that having the right pole at the right time is the absolute crux of the pole vault. You have to have the right pole at the right time. Even if you're the best pole vaulter in the world and you don't have the right pole, you're helpless. You're not gonna be able to do anything. And renting poles helps with that problem so much. And PVR is the bridge that's going to help normal people and businesses rent out their poles more efficiently and just make it more just easy to rent poles. We've been working really hard on the app. We actually are helping develop this app, and we've been working hard on it for the past year, and it has gotten so much better. And it has helped some of the greatest clubs, pole vault clubs in the country, get their poles out, and has really helped them to have another source of revenue for their club. And then also it's made a lot of people's lives easier in the process. With fall coming up, this is like the off season. This is a great time to sign up for PVR. If you got some poles in your garage that you've been wanting to figuring out what to do with and you wanted to rent them out, you could sign up for PVR. If you're a club and you wanted to start a pole rental business, this is a great opportunity that you can sign up for PVR, get your poles inventory during the fall, and start renting pole vaulting poles. If you're a high school or a college and you got a bunch of old poles that nobody ever uses anymore, somebody wants to use those poles. I can guarantee you that. Sign up for a PVR account and start renting your poles out, adding a little bit more revenue to your team's budget. So if you want more information about PVR, you can visit pv-rental.com. You can also fill out a contact form there, and everyone at PVR will get back to you with any questions that you guys have. So PVR is going to be a game changer, and you're going to want to be a part of it. So back to our episode 50, which we're so grateful that you're stuck around for 50 episodes. We're here with our content director, John Wood. Round of applause for John Wood. So just a little quick thing about John Wood. I've known John since he was a senior in high school, and he is an awesome dude, without doubt. But we hired him specifically about a year and a half ago to direct our content at Rise. He had been coaching at Rise for a while, but we hired him to direct our content because we saw that there was kind of a hole in the pole vault, and that hole is that there's not a lot of stuff to follow. Like, there's not that much content. Like, if you're a football fan, you can just, load up whatever on the internet and you can just go and find really good, high quality content about football or soccer or baseball or whatever. But there's not that many channels for pole vaulting. So we wanted to get something started, and John was the guy that we chose to head the whole thing up. And he's been the director of content. So any of the stuff that you see on Instagram, he's behind it all. I mean, we just kind of show up and do what he tells us to do. Sometimes we come up with ideas and pitch him on ideas. But he's really changed like everything here at Rise with that Instagram page and TikTok, and he does all of it, so I don't even know all the different things that we have going on out there right now. But he's with us. He's producing this podcast, but he's also going to be chiming in
And so John, say what's up to everybody.
I appreciate that, Jake. That's a really nice endorsement.
Yeah.
I mean, I love doing all that, but let's get into what we're doing for the podcast today. So for the 50th episode, we wanted to dig in a little bit, make it a special thing. We got a lot of questions from our Instagram followers on stuff about Rise, stuff about the podcast, stuff about pole vaulting, questions they have. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask some of these questions and you're going to answer them.
Beautiful.
So if you guys like this format, be sure to give us some feedback on that. You can send us a DM about that. And if you have any questions and this is something that's popular, we'll answer them next time. All right.
Absolutely.
So to get us started,
flying.
I think it would be easy just to talk about what's going on at Rise. Just new things. It's the fall, wrapping up summer. Anything you want to talk about that?
Yeah. So, I mean, a lot's gone on since the Austin Miller podcast. So much stuff. And just to be clear, too, John coaches here, too. And he is one hell of a coach. He's gotten a lot better. Like, you've gotten way better since the beginning. Not that you were bad in the beginning, but you're just a lot better now.
Thanks, man.
So anyway, a lot's happened. Luke got 6th at the Olympic trials. That was awesome. Trevor, he didn't make it to the final. He had actually an awesome day in the, like, warm-ups and everything in the prelim at the Olympic trials. Just made one little tiny mistake and wasn't able to make it there. But Trevor is actually no longer with us. That came out wrong. He's still alive. That came out totally wrong. He is with us, just not at Rise. He just found that coaching wasn't really his thing right now and just wanted to spend some more time, just doing other things besides coaching. And coaching's not everybody's thing, It takes a certain personality and a certain, I don't know. You have to be, like, definitely very self-motivated to want to coach. Like, if you go and you get in front of a bunch of high schoolers that are, looking for feedback and you're not into it, that can be extremely difficult and hard. So anyway, Trevor is not at Rise anymore, but we wish him all the best. But we did hire Colby Lewis, K-Bomb. Any other nicknames?
Bolby.
Bolby?
Bolby's what they call him at AZPVA.
Really?
Yeah.
Is there, like, a story behind that, or?
I think it's because it has to do with, like, Bulbasaur, the Pokemon.
Like the Pokemon?
Yeah, Bolby.
Bolby. I mean, that's not bad. So yeah, Colby has been awesome. Like, this dude is just completely on fire for the pole vault. The first day that this dude, like, I love the dude to death. I'm not trying to put him on blast or anything right here, but the first day, so, like, I had this talk with Trevor about, like, hey, him and I both mutually were like, this isn't working out. Let's just, be done with it. So I literally say goodbye to Trevor, and I look down, and Colby has his first day here at Rise. Dude's down there, no shoes, no shirt, down there coaching, and this kid walks in the front door, and Colby's got, like, long hair, mustache, and this kid walks in the front door and looks at me, and he goes, who's pole vault Jesus down there? And I was like, that's the new coach. That's our new guy. And he is just, like, he's just brought this, like, new fun energy to Rise, and he thinks super deeply about stuff, about the vault, and he's just been incredible lately. Yeah. So Colby's here. And then, just finishing up with the season. The summer's always really difficult at a pole vaulting gym. There's a lot of people, like, wanting to jump, and you got classes, like, just kind of banging out classes, like, one after another. And it's been face melting hot this summer, and we don't have AC, and we've been trying to figure out how we can get some sort of cooling situation in here because it's just been really, really hot. And yeah, is there anything else?
Yeah, I mean, that's been a lot.
Yeah, sorry.
I mean, there's a million other things. But
Yeah, a million other things. We're just constantly, like, you would think from an outsider's perspective, like, all you do, this is the thing that annoys me so much, is like, all you do is just coach the pole vault. Like, can't you just do this or do that? It's like, dude, the coaching is the easiest part. Like, it's, when I get to coaching, my day's over. Like, that's just kind of like fun time, you know? The rest of the stuff, like, it's just nuts. And I am very, very, very good at overextending myself. It's like one of my best traits. So I can overextend myself better than anyone.
yeah, you can say that again.
So anyway, yeah. So that's a little update.
Sweet. So we are going into the fall here. And I know for some people, they may have been training over the summer. Some people may have taken the summer off, you're traveling and stuff. So you do have a lot of people that are starting to pick up training again. Mm-hmm. And it seems like there's a decent number of people out there that kind of want some insight into our philosophies and maybe apply it to their own vault. So one question we have is, describe the elements and peculiarities of the Rise Pole Vault process.
What does peculiarities mean?
The unusual things or the distinct things that Rise does in their training process.
You know, this is going to be like kind of counterintuitive to that question, but I think that the way we do things is, it does make us unique. I think it's just simpler. I think it's just...
Yeah, what's the name of our drills?
Oh, yeah, that's all right. So we've got like a series of swing through drills or like straight pole drills that we do from 3, which I'm assuming like the majority of pole vault programs out there always warm up with those straight pole drills. So the first one is the on the foot drill. That's where you land on your foot. And then Wood actually is the one who introduced us to the on the butt drill, which Colby confirmed that they do at AZPVA as well to stop people from like spinning and stuff. And I don't know. So that's the on the butt drill. And then you got the on the back drill. Then you got the on the side drill. All self-explanatory. So yeah, super simple. And then, yeah, we got the running plant drill where you run and you plant. Yeah, there's that one. And then the half drill where you do half of the vault and land on your back. The 3/4 drill where you do 3/4 of the vault and land on your side. And then the corkscrew is kind of fun. That's like that one's more exciting of a name. Yeah. But I think
Can I stop you right there real quick? Because we have multiple people that ask, like, what's the point of the corkscrew? Is it just to look cool? Is it just a fun thing?
That is one of the things. 100%. 100%. One of the reasons why you do a corkscrew is because it looks cool. I mean, I'm just being honest. That's one of the things. So there's a lot of layers to that, but number one is you got to remember that like sports are supposed to be fun, and a corkscrew is really fun to do when you do it right. Like it's a really fun drill, and that's one of the reasons. If you're looking for a technical reason, the technical reason would probably be, in my opinion, is to blend all the different phases of the vault. So like when we teach people how to pole vault at Rise, it's very segmented. It's very much like, all right, we're going to teach you how to plant. And then once you could plant well, then we're going to teach you how to swing and, land on your butt. And then once you can swing on your land on your butt, we're going to teach you to swing and land on your back. And basically what you're left with is at the end of it, once they learn how to bend the pole and they learn how to go over a bar with a bent pole, it looks like a bunch of pieces stuck together. You've got the plant, the swing, the rock back, the extension, the turn. And what the corkscrew does is it takes a blender and it kind of meshes those things together. It like, oh, so I'm not just swinging right now. Like I'm actually swinging, starting to extend and starting to turn all at the same time. So instead of all three of those things being three different pieces, it's now just one motion. One of the things that we always say is one of my favorite cues is just try to make it all one piece. Like I don't want to see you stop anywhere. We don't hit positions in the pole vault. We pass through positions in the pole vault. So if like you swing into your rock back and you stop, that's bad. And then you extend and you stop and you hit that position, that's bad. So that would be like hitting positions. We swing, we hit the rock back. And then we start the extension and we extend and we hit the extension. Then we turn and we hit the turn. We don't hit positions. We pass through the positions. Because if we stop, we drop. So we have to figure out how can we teach somebody to, instead of having it be a bunch of different pieces, make it all one piece. Make it all work all together as one, make it flow, make it all flow together. And the corkscrew is one of the best drills for that. And the last reason why is, I have talked about it before, is that Aztec death whistle. That's the Aztec death whistle. So there's a Rogan episode where they talk about the Aztec death whistle, which was actually like a little tiny skull that the Aztecs would surround their enemy and blow the whistle, and it would be this like blood curdling scream, and it would intimidate the people they were surrounding so much that they just like kind of gave up. They were like, no, this is too scary. They're blowing that Aztec death whistle and it's freaking me out. And then they would just surrender. And when you run down the runway full steam and you just send it straight through the top and do a big honking corkscrew, that's like blowing that Aztec death whistle. And everyone in that field house is like, oh no. They're probably going to win. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, who's getting second?
Right. And maybe if it's done right, if it looks like dog crap, then it probably won't have that same effect. But if you do a good one on like a decently sized pole, it's intimidating and it looks cool and it makes you look like you're athletic. Like you're like, whoa, that person, that's an athlete right there. It's like front flipping out of the running plant drill. You don't have to front flip out of the running plant drill. Does it make you look more intimidating and athletic? Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
So there's parts of it that are technical and parts of it that are just mental, and then parts of it that are pure cosmetic. Like we just like the way it looks and it's fun drill.
Yeah. Can I add one more reason to that?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So I think a lot of intermediate vaulters, they kind of ask this question like, why am I not getting any more pop off the top? Or like it feels like I'm falling out, even though they're hitting a pretty good position. They're keeping it on their right leg. They're tight. They're in a high J position. They're coming out of it well. And the answer is simply because they're not on a big enough pole.
100%.
All right. They're like, yeah, it doesn't look like Mondo. It's not passing here. I'm not going all the way. It's like, yeah, dude, because you're on a pole 5 pounds over your body weight. It's a 13-footer.
Yeah.
So, but with the corkscrew, you're able to feel what it's like to pass through and continue to stay on this and get it to pass right by your head as you're coming through, because you're going more horizontal deep into the pit. So that way, once you get to an advanced level and you're on a big pole, you already know how to continue at the pole and ride it up.
That's a really, really good point. Yeah, because to do a corkscrew properly, you have to be on a pretty small pole. And like John said, is you're shooting out at like a more of a 45-degree angle. So you're not fighting gravity as hard to go straight up. So you don't need 50 pounds over your body weight in a pole to be able to chuck you up like that. So since you're going at 45 degrees, you're able to hit all the positions of the pole vault, including that last little sweet spot, coming through with that top hand, past your hip through past your shoulder, over the top of your head. And that is really hard to feel that unless you're doing a corkscrew. So very good. That's a really good assessment. And I just wanted to add in here too that John writes all those descriptions too on Instagram. And sometimes I read them and I'm like, holy cow, that's really, really good. Really good. And he's the one who posted the cross country one.
Yeah, that was me. Sorry, guys.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Well, he actually did. But I approved it.
I asked for approval.
I approved it. Yeah, I approved it. Dude, that post was a mess, man.
Yeah, we got a lot of comments on that.
Explain yourself, Wood.
I mean, it's just, you got to think, what's our purpose? And our purpose is to make people better pole vaulters.
Yeah.
You know? And if our purpose was just to, you know, have people have fun playing different sports and stuff, that would be one thing. So what I do is I always ask someone what their goals are. You know, if someone's goal is to get a scholarship or to, you know, be a professional pole vaulter or, you know, jump as high as they can, you got to make some choices and you got to specialize earlier on. If you just want to have fun playing different sports in high school, great, go for it. Play 3 different sports.
Right. That's exactly it. And if somebody was heated on that post, which I was getting text messages about that post because I didn't see it, and then all of a sudden I started getting text messages like, dude, why'd you post that? And I was like, I didn't post it, number one, and I knew you were going to be posting it because you had asked me about it like maybe a week or two before, and I got text messages. But the thing is I pulled it up, and whenever I saw it, I was like, all right, yeah, that's pretty straight to the point right there, like the video. But then you got to read the description, man. Like if you read the description, it's like, yeah, that makes total sense. This freaking fly. That makes total sense that you have to, I love how you put in there that you have to have, what is your goal? What's your goal? If your goal is just to enjoy multiple sports and to do that, then that's what we want. All we want here at Rise, and I know so many of these other clubs and high school programs, all they want is for their athletes and the people who come through their door to be happy. Like that's it. That's it. And whatever's going to make you happy and feel fulfilled in your life, that's what we want you to do. And if you want to just play multiple sports and stuff like that, then yeah, you should do that. But if you come to us and you're like, no, that's not what I want to do. What I want to do is become the best pole vaulter I can possibly become. Well, then we got to give you the hard answer. And the hard answer is that, you know, running months and months of long distance is not going to help. And this is coming from a cross country advocate over here. Like I ran cross country. I loved cross country. All the people who stood up in my wedding
I was gonna say,
are all from my 7th grade cross country team, you know, and I ran cross all the way through sophomore year. But I tell people, because we get this question all the time at Rise, which is, should I run cross country? Or what happens is we're working with an athlete and we're like, you know, hey, like no offense, but you look dead. Like, did you do anything before you came to the workout today? Like, oh yeah, I ran 8 miles. And it's like, oh, well, that makes total sense now. So thank you for telling me that, because now we can adjust the workout for you to, you know, so we're not jumping on big poles and big grips. And then they'll ask me like, hey, do you think that I should keep on doing that? And I'm like, well, you know, you ask them, what is your goal? My goal is to become the best pole vaulter I can become. And then I tell them the story of my situation, which is my best friends were cross country runners. I love them still to this day. They're my best friends. But my dad told me my sophomore year, like, hey, like you've done well in pole vaulting. But if you want to do really well, you're not, it's not going to work doing both of these. You gotta do some training in the fall, and you gotta get faster. And I stopped running cross country and won state. And I'm not saying that that's what's going to happen for everybody, but that's what happened in my situation. Is I spent the fall trying to get better with my speed and my strength, and then doing some jumping, and then I jumped a foot and a half higher the next year. Went from 15 feet to 16.7. And that was because...
That makes a big difference. That's a big difference once you're already jumping that high.
Yeah, but I knew what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to go to college. I had to make that choice. Like, do you want to go to... At the time, I wanted to go to a big Division I college and jump, big time, quote unquote, big time. And I knew that's what I wanted. So I was like, okay, well... And then right after that, I started getting offers from, big schools, and that's that. This fly is really... It's right here. Of course. On our 50th episode.
The mic. If I imagine how bad this would hurt your ears if you had.
Well. All right.
It'll be all right.
Yeah. Anyway.
All right. So my question then, let's dig into this a little further.
Mm-hmm.
One, do you think it is beneficial for someone to play multiple sports when they're young?
Mm-hmm.
We're talking maybe they're in 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th grade.
All right. Well, I have 2 little girls, so I can use this as an example. My kids currently don't do any sports. They did dance for a little bit when they were younger. Didn't really like it. I didn't really we travel a lot. And I think it's really valuable while my kids are young and they want to be around their mom and dad, I want to take advantage of that, because I know that that's a ticking time bomb. Like, that's not going to last forever. So, right around that middle school-ish age is probably whenever they're going to be like, I'd rather not go on this vacation with my mom and dad. I'd rather just stay home and be with my friends. So we kind of made a conscious choice, like, no, we're not going to do the whole like dance competition team type stuff, because we want to travel and spend time with family while we can. And then, that's one of the things that kind of is annoying, is every time I talk to somebody, they always, like, all the people, they always ask, oh, what are the girls doing? Like, what are they doing? Like I'm missing something. Like I missed the train to the sports station. And it's like, I'm like, they're not doing anything. They're just being kids. And then I teach them one of the things that I do teach them how to do is every once in a while I teach them some just basic sprint mechanics, because I think sprinting is something that, like, they can carry that anywhere.
Yeah, like I'll come in here sometimes and you'll have them, like, you'd be racing with them or running with them, or they'll join you when you're doing like a sprint workout or something like that.
Yeah, and every once in a while I'll get them on the platform and do some just fun stuff on the pole. But the whole thing is that everyone always asks me, well, what are they doing? And then when they find out that they're not doing anything, they're like, what the heck? And I'm like, listen, just because your kid isn't, in travel baseball when they're 8 years old, like, doesn't mean that they can't become a great baseball player. But I do think that there is an age where, when my kids come to me and they ask me what they like, I want to do this, that's whenever I'll go in and let them do what they want to do. But I would go with the same logic as what we were talking about earlier. Like, you can't, it sometimes is hard to have your cake and eat it too, where my kids, like, if they, like, Lacey does play basketball every once in a while, and she's like, well, I'm not doing so well at basketball. Well, okay, how much time have you put into that? Like, she's really young, she's 9 years old, but it's like, how many shots have you taken today, or this or that or the other? And it's like, not very many. Well, if you're involved in a million different things and you're not good at any of them. You're just kind of getting by in all of them. Like that's just the nature of what you're doing. If you want to be, it's like that. What's the saying? Jack of all trades, master of none.
Master of none.
Yeah, it's like, what do you want to do? Do you want to be the person that like just kind of is pretty good at everything, or do you want to be really good at something? And that's just a personal choice. That every individual is different. So from that perspective, I think it just depends on the kid and what they want. But I think it's important as the parent and the coach to let them know, like, hey, there is a ceiling that you're going to hit if you don't invest more time into this, you know? And that's just it. What was the original question? Was like playing multiple sports?
Playing that I asked or
You
that
asked.
they
Or they asked? Or
was
you
at
asked?
what age do you think someone should specialize in a
Oh
sport?
man, that one's really tough. So at Rise, we have a pole vault fundamentals class. The minimum that we'll take is 6th grade. And I'm fine with that because I'm not going to let them get out of that fundamentals class until probably they're older. Just for reference, I didn't start pole vaulting until I was in 8th grade. But the problem with the pole vault is it just takes so long to get good at it. It takes so long to get good at it. And if you just do it by just the numbers, like let's say you run cross in the fall, okay? Then you play basketball in the winter. And then it's time to start pole vaulting again. You have if you have an indoor season, you know, you have February, March, April, May. That's 4 months that you're practicing your craft. And not only that, during that 4 months, you're trying to also be ready to compete, you know, which doesn't lend itself to like blowing up your vault and trying to improve things. So if you think about like the reason that we push vaulting, I mean, if you want to be really good at pole vaulting, you got to do it year round. We wouldn't have Rise running 12 months a year if I didn't think that it was valuable for pole vaulters. But if you get to your season, so January, February, and you're just starting to pole vault now, like how are you going to like make significant improvements? Because you got to be ready to pole vault in the meets already. So there was no time to drop down to super, super short and no time to really spend a couple months on reprogramming something that you're having trouble with, you know? And so in my mind, that's why I think that this time right now is so incredibly valuable. You know, September, October, November, those months are for, you and I talked about it, like that's for dumping out all the stuff that you collected last year during your season. You collected injuries from a bad takeoff. You know, collected this bad habit, that bad habit. September and October and November, that's the time where we address those issues. That's the time to address the issues. The time to address those issues is not January, 2 weeks before your first meet. You know what I'm saying? Like, because it's going to take months for you to be able to change stuff. You know, it takes so long to change stuff. So that's, if it was easy to change stuff, then I would say, yeah, go play this sport, play that sport, and, you know, do that. But if it's going to be, this fly is going to be the death of me. Come on, baby. Where is it?
It's on your shirt. We got to get a swatter.
Yeah. Anyway, Yeah. So I think probably 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, probably if you want to do other stuff, definitely should be doing other stuff.
Yeah.
But it depends too. Like if you jump 16 feet your freshman year or 12 feet your freshman year as a female, it's like, dang, well, you know, I don't know if I want to do other stuff, besides that.
I think a lot of it kind of times up with when someone goes through puberty. Like building
That's a
their
good point.
general athleticism, making sure they have mobility and having, their different things. Maybe they're doing rock climbing, maybe they're doing basketball, soccer, volleyball, football, but once you kind of hit puberty and your body's more like dialed in, if you're jumping 16 or 12 foot, you've probably already gone through puberty.
Probably,
and you could probably
yeah.
make that decision if you want to.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think it just all boils down to your goals. It boils down to the goals that you have. If your goal is you want to go to a big Division I college and pole vault at a big Division I college, well, guess what? You better be jumping really high going into your junior year. Your junior indoor season is probably the most important time for you to be able to jump high. This freaking fly. It's trying to shut down our...
Nope. It's too fast. Got reaction time.
Yeah.
All right. So speaking about the D1, there's a new rule that's probably going to be passed for the 2025 season. We had a question on this. It's thoughts on the new NCAA roster and scholarship limits. So for those of you that don't know, there is in 2025 to 2026 year, there will be a increased limit of scholarships that are available for each team. And for each sport, it's different. For track, I believe it's 45. So you'll have 45 scholarships, whereas before it was like 12 for men and like more for women, 18 for women.
45 scholarships.
45 full scholarships are available. All right. For like football, it's
Holy.
105, I think.
45 scholarships for track and field.
Yes. Now, it
Combined.
doesn't-
Men's and women's combined.
Each.
Hold on. There's 45 full scholarships. Are you sure about this?
Yes. It doesn't mean that your school is going to have enough money. Like your school can
Right,
dictate
but there's
how it
no...
came about.
Yeah,
There's no
so their
limit.
budget, it depends on their budget.
Yes. But
Oh my gosh.
the roster limit is also going to be 45.
So everyone's on full rides?
So everyone could be on full rides, but you can't have as many people that are probably walk-ons or stuff like that. You're limited to 45 people on your team.
I wonder
and
how
up to
many
that
people are on a normal college roster. Type that into ChatGPT.
More than 45 for some of them. How many were on North Central? 145?
Yeah, that's a
But
Division
I
III
know.
school though. Because I'm thinking about a high school team. A high school team, I mean, it could range from like, I don't know, 50 to like 150 athletes on a track team.
Yeah.
Just for like one program, men's or women's.
Yeah.
You
We
know,
had like 120, I think.
that's so many people. I would never want to be a head track coach. That would be so hard to manage that many people doing all the different things. Yeah, I don't even know if it will come up with a good answer. It's pretty specialized.
Yeah, I mean, it
What does it
says
say?
30 to 50. It just kind of depends.
Yeah, I was going to
No.
say like 45 kind of seems like it
Upwards
might...
of 60 for large programs.
45 seems like it might be roughly in the ballpark. But like you said, I mean, at North Central, where we went, there was 100 some people.
Yeah. Well, what do you think that does to the number of pole vaulters that a team wants?
Oh, man. That's a good question. That's a very good question. They can never make it easy. Why don't you just do the 45 scholarships? Period. Let them break them out too. So then your 45, you can turn them into half scholarships. And now you got 90 half scholarships.
Yeah.
Why don't they just let them do that? Why? I don't understand the limit. Like why limit the roster?
Yeah. I don't know. It seems like maybe they want, this is for every sport. The limit is now what the limit is for scholarships. So it's like they brought down the limit, but they brought up the scholarships for each sport.
I would really like to know what the reasoning was for that. Yeah, I mean, that's been the age-old debate with pole vaulters, unfortunately, is that you can score 10 points, which is bogus. And I'm going to just tee this up, because if you are a sprinter, you could win the 100, and if you win the 100, you're likely going to win the 200, and you probably can medal in the 400. And in the pole vault, and they're doing the same exact thing. They're just sprinting. One of them has a turn, and one of them doesn't have a turn. One of them has 2 turns. 400 has 2 turns. 200 has 1 turn, and then the 100 just has a straight. It's just sprinting. Okay, that would be like Mondo winning a gold in the 5 left, the 7 left, the 10 left. Dude's probably going to win all the lefts. You know what I'm saying? He's probably going to win all of them. That's just what frustrates me so much. Like, and I'm not salty because I won a couple 3 national championships at North Central. But it's like, well, this person won 6. It's like, I know, but they did the same thing. You won 6, but you did the same thing. Like, if it was like, hey, this person won the 400 and the hurdles, maybe not, because the 400 hurdles, that's a bad example.
The 800 and the 60, the long jump and the 800.
Right. Yeah. Just like if it was like 2 completely different things that it wasn't the exact same thing that you did. Like if you run the 5,000, you're probably going to win the 10,000 too, or come close to it, you know?
Dude, same thing for decathletes. Like a decathlete, think about how much they're doing. And they can only get 10 points.
Yeah, they can only get 10 points. That's so bad. I didn't even think about that. Oh, man. Yeah, like so a decathlete goes and it's like, hey, you know, this person, you know, you go to a party or a barbecue and you got gold medal decathlete there, and then you got gold medal distance runner there, and the distance runner's like, dude, yeah, I got 3 gold medals. It's like decathlete's like, I only got 1. It's like, come on, dude, the decathlete is such a better athlete. Like, way better athlete, man. And he only gets 1 medal. And so, yeah, so that's what that bothers me a lot, that, and so that has always been the situation, is that it's like, well, we're not going to waste a scholarship on a pole vaulter. They only can get 10 points. And that's just the nature of how the sport of track and field was set up, is that they have some events that are technical events that you can get 1 medal in, and then they have running events that you can do the same thing and get multiple medals in and multiple points in. It's just, it's kind of a little bit of a, I don't know. It's frustrating.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that potentially it could be like, all right, we're going to recruit 1 pole vaulter, but yeah, oh man, I'd like to talk to somebody like a college vault coach and just see like, okay, what's your strategy? Like, how do you approach your head coach about this? Like, hey, we're going to try to dominate the vault at nationals. And it's like, okay, well, you guys, you know, you got 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, but this guy over here got 1st, and 1st. And in the vault, we spent 3 scholarships on those 3 people. We spent 1 scholarship on this person. I mean, it does make sense, but it's just how the sport's set up.
Yeah.
You know?
Do you ever think that could change? Like,
I mean, anything
the way
can
stuff
change.
is scored, or
People, yeah, we should get more points. Straight up.
that'd be nice.
I mean, what's the likelihood of somebody becoming, like if you go on the street, right? Go to Walmart. Walmart's probably a really bad example, but go to Walmart and just, yeah, you're not going to find very many athletic people at Walmart. So let's just say we're going on the street, all right? And you pull a dude off the street or a girl off the street and you say, all right, we're going to give you all the resources that you need to become the best sprinter that you can be. And we're going to give you all the resources that you need to become the best pole vaulter that you need. You know, it's probably more likely that they would become more successful in sprinting. Right? Because it's just
they could get there
easy.
a lot faster.
It's just,
they could get there a lot faster.
It's just, I'm not saying that, like, I mean, obviously I would get dusted by so many people in sprinting. I'm not saying that, like, I could do better, but I am saying that what's simpler? Sprinting
obvious.
or pole vaulting? Yeah, so maybe it should be weighted. Have you thought about that?
I just don't know if I see it changing that much. You know,
well, you
'cause
were
it's just
saying about
so-
like weighting it. It sounded like you had thought through this. You don't have a solution? Come on, dude.
No, it's like Okay, maybe I'll get heat for this, but it's like gymnastics. The way it's scored is just dumb. You know?
Yeah,
Like
'cause
why?
it's so subjective.
Yeah. I mean, it's subjective in one sense. You know, I mean, the judges have been doing it for so long, and they know, like, they're probably pretty similar in their scores a lot of times. But just like saluting the judge or making sure that your hair has to be the right way and all this.
They get
What would
points
be-
for that?
Yeah. Or you get docs if stuff is off.
For your hair?
I mean, maybe if it's all messy. I don't know. Maybe.
Or like saluting?
Yeah, you have to like salute the judges at. That was like a
And if
big
you
thing
don't
with
do
Simone
that-
Biles. That she like
I didn't see
she
it.
only turned. This was not this Olympics, but she like turned this much instead of turning all the way to face them, and she got docked.
Yeah, that's bogus.
So like it's stuff like that where, and just like the rhythmic part of it, and like no one watches like the floor routines. For the random moves they do, they watch it for like the crazy flips they can do.
yeah.
Those are the things that are intense. Whereas if you look like a tricker,
Pull your mic up a little bit.
yeah. Like tricking, like people do, like kind of like parkour stuff.
I know
like
parkour.
they'll go on, but they'll go on like gymnastics floors and do like tricking.
Yeah, just crazy flips and
Yeah,
stuff. Yeah.
Like imagine if you had an Olympic gymnast that just did that. What they could do and how cool it would be. And it's not
Right.
because it's not necessarily clean, everything they're doing. It just looks cool.
Right.
Where if you change the rules to gymnastics to where it was just about looking cool, but I don't think that's going to happen because it's just like been
It's just so
a certain way for
ingrained.
so long
Right.
to where I don't necessarily think it's going to change in the NCAA because it's just been there so long.
Yeah, I mean, you know what though? If they're gonna limit the roster, then yeah, get rid of some events.
Yeah.
And you're not gonna get you can't give a case. You cannot give a case. I mean, you can always just give a random case, but like there's not a real strong case that like if you had to clean it up and you had to axe 2 events. Like you could axe running events, some running events. Because it's like, oh man, they're getting rid of the 800 or something. It's like, okay, those people could run the 1500 or the 400.
Yeah.
They could. Now, if you come through and you're like, hey, we're going to axe the pole vault. It's like, well, yeah, there's no comparable event that we can go to. So like, yeah, I'm not
Also,
saying that
no
we should
one wants to
get rid of those events. Nobody wants to.
No one wants to go to a track meet and watch the whole thing. It just takes too long.
Yeah, I know.
And you're not going to get spectators in a sport where it's like that. Whereas if you go to a meet in Europe, they're not running every single event. But they have spectators.
Yeah, the Diamond
know?
Leagues, they only do some events. Yeah.
You go there and it's a couple hours long and you can get some food, you can, get a drink, you can hang out and it's a good time. You're not
Right.
there for 12 hours.
Right. Yeah, because it's a grind, dude. Like, I sometimes feel bad for, like, parents, like, where, you'll go to a track meet and it's like, I mean, even, like, coaches, too. If you're a head coach or a track coach in high school or college, and it's like, hey, yeah, we got a track meet on Saturday. It's not like having a football game. You're going to get on that bus at 6 or 6:30 in the morning, and you're not going to get back on the bus coming home until 9 or something at night.
Yeah.
That's
if you
a
have
lot.
to travel far, it's more than that.
Yeah. I mean, it's a long, long grind. Yeah. You know who I've always wanted to have on here is Paul Doyle. I've wanted to see and pick his brain about the American Track League, and just like, okay, because I'm sure that they have kicked around. There's probably so many people out there that have kicked around ideas of like, how could we make track and field more, spectator friendly and more fun and more interesting. And yeah, it's tough. I mean, the pole vault, we do have a lot going for us though. We have pole vaulting has its own culture. It's one of the two events, I think, in track and field that has like its own distinct culture. Like pole vaulters, if you talk to anybody, it's like, oh yeah, there's pole vaulters over there. They're obsessed with each other. They just look like they're just messing around the whole time. Like it's just, and they are crazy or this or that, which we're not all crazy. Like that's kind of silly. But the other one is distance runners, which I love. Distance runners, I love them. They have their own culture too. And pole vaulting is a cool one because it can operate outside of a track and field stadium, in like cool venues and stuff. And that's why street vaults are really, really cool. The problem with street vaults is they are financially a train wreck.
Mm-hmm.
We've tried to look at the economics of putting on a street vault many times. It's a freaking mess looking at the financials of a street vault. And that's why, like, the people who do put them on, like, oh my gosh, I'd love to see, like, if they're even, pulling in anything. Which we're very grateful that they do it, because they're probably not doing it for that much money. They're doing it out of the kindness of their heart and just like the promotion of the event, which is amazing. But if we could find a way to make that more profitable for people, I think that street vaults and stuff like that, they are a really good time. The biggest issue that I've had, there's two issues that I have with street vault. Number one is finances. Like the economics of it is terrible. Number two is the weather.
Dude,
all right?
Dude, I hit something on here. I don't know what I did, but it caused like a bunch of balloons to just like go up over you. Like it was like your birthday or something. And
Still recorded?
Yeah, we're still recording.
All right. Maybe that's a sign. But yeah, and then the other thing is like the weather. Like you could do all this work for a street vault or something, and then all of a sudden just rain on that day. And you only got the permits, to do it on one day.
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah, it's terrible. So yeah, I don't know how we got on that tangent. I think it was the scholarship situation. Yeah. That's so interesting. I have no idea. I can't keep up with all that stuff. How did you find that out?
I found out about from a person I was doing some virtual coaching with, and she's walking on at like a bigger D1 school, and they're like, you got to jump a certain height, or we'll have kind of a tryout sort of thing, and she's doing pretty well. Like her height, like she's like on the border of her PR, being able to score at their conference meet.
Right.
But he wants to, the coach wants to see that, oh, she can do this. So when you have someone like that that's not getting a scholarship coming in, and they PR'd a lot their senior year. They didn't have that junior year PR that the coaches are like looking for when they're in their recruiting time.
Mm-hmm.
How does that affect the walk-ons? Well, now if there's one less spot, maybe less likely to actually give someone a shot.
It's going to be so hard for walk-ons. Oh my gosh. Which I'm, not trying to beat a dead horse here, but it's just, my dad said when I was younger, you need to jump really high indoors your junior year. And the reason he said that is because we're in Illinois and you cannot count on the outdoor season in Illinois. Like, have a good attitude and be positive, but also be realistic. There's a very high likelihood that you don't get any good weather to jump in Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
So with that being said, we have to defer to the indoor season, and we have to set ourselves up to jump really high indoors. And then if we do that, then we're in good shape going into outdoors, but then we're just kind of at the mercy of what the weather does, So
and the only way you can jump high indoors your junior year is if you're specialized. You're vaulting year round. Imagine trying to be like, okay, I have to hit my PR to get, colleges to look at me, and you just started vaulting in the last month.
Right.
And you're like, I got like a month and a half of my season. I haven't even done this in a year.
Yeah, because you're talking about February and half of March.
Yeah.
You're talking about, like, for some high school athletes, the majority, probably 5 meets.
Mm-hmm.
And
some of them you can't wear spikes at.
Some of them, a lot of them you can't wear spikes at. Where on the flip side of that, now that we do have clubs in some of the major cities in the U.S. now a lot of these places have, meets that you can actually go to during the school year. Like, October, there's a meet here at Rise. November, there's a meet here at Rise. December, there's 2 meets at Rise. And then January is when we, go to Reno. But if you're playing football, no offense to football players, but like if you're playing football and you miss, this many, and you're not ready to go for those meets, and then it's just like, oh man, it stinks. But it all goes back to every individual. We want people who come through that door to be happy. Mm-hmm. And if doing those other things makes them happy, that's what we want them to do, So it just all goes back to asking the individual what they want, but don't BS them and tell them that they're going to be just fine if they vault for a couple weeks before the season starts, because that's just not the case. Like, that's not with any sport, but especially pole vaulting. It's very difficult to do that. It's a lot of timing. There's also the curve of like getting into condition to pole vault too. Like, the first time that you go and you pole vault, your body is like, let's say you didn't jump for 3 months, and then you come back and you're like, all right, I'm going to start pole vaulting again. Or let's use the more extreme example. So they stop vaulting at the beginning of June. They've got June, July, August, September, October, November, December, and then they start vaulting again in January. So they have not been vaulting for 8 months. And then they come back and they do one of the most violent sports on your body, just like on a whim. Just like, all right, yeah, here we go. And here's the pole, and let's run down the runway and do it. High likelihood of injury.
Mm-hmm.
High likelihood that your body is just going to be very mad and inflamed after that workout, And these people that generally we're working with are young and they can bounce back pretty quick. But I don't know. I would be interested to see some statistics on how many of those people end up with shin splints. How many of those people end up with, back issues because they're still taking off under and they didn't take time to learn how to take off properly in the off season. It's like, well, I got a back injury and then knocked me out for the rest of the season and I can't really pole vault and I had to go to the doctor. And then 8 months later, they come back and they're like, hey, I'm ready to go. My back feels great. Just took 8 months off. I feel awesome. And then they go run in there and take off under for like 20 times on the first workout. Man, my back hurts again. Why does my back hurt again? Because you still are taking off the same way that you were last year. You haven't changed anything. And it takes months to make technical changes in the pole vault. Months. Years sometimes. Sometimes it takes years to be the best pole vault. Like, in my opinion, in order to see like what you could possibly be in the pole vault, I think it takes between 8 and 10 years.
Definitely.
To see what you could be, And you can advance beyond that too. But to like reach what I would consider like your potential, I would say it probably takes like 10 years. Which is not abnormal for any sport.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, let's look at some more questions because I think we've gotten through 2.
All right. We'll get through 'em.
All right. How frequently should you sprint with and without a pole?
Well, it just goes back to what are your goals?
Okay. If someone their goal is to be the best pole vaulter they can be.
Right.
Let's hit that.
Okay. Yeah. So, and then I would break it out into other goals. So like one goal when you're running with a pole is to learn how to run with the pole. That's what your goal is in doing that exercise. And then the other one is just trying to get your kind of gross speed to raise the floor on your just basic speed, So my answer, every case is different, but something that first of all, you have to sprint without a pole. I would say you don't have to, but it's advisable to sprint one time per week with a pole, I would say. Then people always forget that when you're pole vaulting, you're sprinting with a pole.
Mm-hmm.
So like people would look at our HP high performance training plan and our program, and they'd be like, why aren't we doing pole runs? And it's like, well, you're doing pole runs twice a week. You're doing them down the runway, So running with a pole, sometimes it's kind of baked in, but I could see doing pole runs once a week. You just got to be careful. You got to watch how many touchdowns you're doing like during the week. Like if you're pole vaulting twice a week, that's a lot of impact on your body. And then you add in another sprint workout, that's a lot of impact on your body. And then you're going to add another pole run workout. Oh man, that's a lot of sprinting. That's called shin splints.
Yeah.
And especially if you're going to add in another day of sprinting and then jumping at the end. Whoo, that left shin is going to be on fire.
Yeah.
It's kind of just a matter of time before you come to us and you're like, you told us on the podcast to do pole runs every week and sprint every week and pole vault twice a week, and now I got shin splints. I would say use your pole vaulting as your pole runs and sprint. Not a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Just, 5 times 40 or 50 meters as fast as you possibly can. Moving your legs as fast as they can possibly go and trying to really stress your nervous system. Not a lot of times. 4 or 5 times. But make them count. Don't trot down the track, 4 or 5 times. Like really sit there and be like, okay, this one I am going to move my arms as fast as I possibly can, and as soon as my foot hits the ground, I'm picking that thing back up. And it hits again, and I'm picking it up. It hits again, picking it up. And I'm going as fast as I possibly can. And then I'm going to rest for 3 to 5 minutes. And then I'm going to do that same thing again. And that's how you train to get faster. If you want to get in better shape, cardiovascular wise, you could not take that rest, and you could just keep on, knocking them out back to back. And the hard thing is what you'll do is you'll start to think that you're not training hard. You'll start to be like, well, I'm not training very hard, because you're training very hard. You're good. What you're doing is you're thinking that training hard equals being out of breath and your muscles burning and you sweating profusely. That's what you're thinking training hard is. And what you don't realize is that that is one way of training hard, but then the way of training for performance, especially in getting faster, doesn't necessarily include those things all the time. It doesn't necessarily include like huffing and puffing and, getting like your legs are not going to be on fire. And you might leave that workout and be like, dude, I feel like I didn't even do anything. And that's fine. As long as during those reps, you were moving as fast as you possibly can.
Yeah. I'd like to add one thing on that.
Yeah.
Is timing yourself and recording it.
Ooh, good. Yeah.
It's so important, because what you measure, like that's what you're going to improve. So most people, the only thing they measure is how much they benched or how much they squatted. And they're like, oh yeah, well each day I'm following this plan and I'm upping it 5%, over the course of a couple weeks and stuff like that. And great, you got your squat and bench up, that helps. Right. But it's not the same as doing it for everything. So recording those numbers so you can see them, see if what you're doing is working, see if you're improving. And there's something there about knowing what your number is and what you have to do to beat it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And the other thing too is just, I mean, you touched on this, but just if I come up to you and just say, hey, are you getting faster? You should be able to honestly tell me, yes, I'm getting faster. Mm-hmm. And that's why with HP, which is our new program we're running here at Rise, it stands for High Performance. Colby's heading that up. In HP, it's like a lot of it has got to do with documenting like what they're doing. So then whenever I ask Colby, like, hey, why is so-and-so like look like a turtle? He's like, then we can go back and look and be like, oh yeah, they actually are getting, a little bit slower. And then we can adjust. But if you don't know, you don't know. That's why whenever people run on the runway sometimes and they're like, oh, I'm slow today. How you know that? And they're like, and I'm like, no, how do you know? How do you know you're running slow? Well, I just feel slow. Well, feeling slow is not running slow. Like, how do you know that you don't feel slow, but you're actually running fast? How do you know? Like, well, I don't. Like, exactly. You have no idea how fast you're running. Unless we have a laser on you, like, you have no clue. Mm-hmm. That's why whenever that meet in France, I forget what it's called, something Parish. I think they had the speeds on like the board, like where they were running in the competition. So they got live results of how fast they were running. I was like, dude, that's really sweet. Unless you thought you were running way faster than you actually are.
Oh no.
And then like you get into that big meet and you're like, I'm only running 9 meters per second. I thought I was running like 9.5, man. What the heck? Yeah. So anyway, you got to record it. Yeah.
All right. Let's kind of continue with that idea of the training. So someone's asking, they have 3 months until their next competition in this off season. What are the things that they should be focusing on the most right now?
Sorry, I'm thinking.
Mm-hmm.
I would do that idea of, so this is what I was talking about earlier, is like when you're in your season, you're pretend like you're carrying around a backpack and you're just picking stuff up during the season and you're just kind of putting it in the backpack. Like as the season goes on, you just pick up more stuff. And, let's say the season goes on and you picked up, some shin splints. Throw that in the backpack. All right. I kind of picked up a run through issue. Dang it. Throw that in the backpack. And it's like, man, my, I actually, I had a personal best. Throw that in the backpack. Good things, bad things. And then at the end of the season, after you've taken a little bit of time to kind of just like settle your mind down, which is now is the time to do this, is you dump that backpack out and you sort through it and you look and try to see, all right, what are some things that I did well last year and what are some things that I did not do well last year? And what are some things that I want to change for this next year? And then I would order those things based upon a couple criteria, like what's the most urgent thing to fix? Okay, the most urgent thing to fix is what's the thing that's going to hurt your vaulting the most? Well, those injuries are probably going to hurt your vaulting the most, because if you're not vaulting, you're not vaulting. Like if you can't jump in the meet, you're not going to be able to jump very high. So let's knock out those injuries. What injuries did you have? Okay, I had shin splints and my back was bothering me, and my shin splints knocked me out for a while. My back knocked me out for a meet or two. Okay, well, we need to figure out what you did to cause those shin splints. Was it overtraining? Most likely it's overtraining, too many touchdowns of your foot, like too much sprinting or too much plyometrics, and you need to get that out. And so now, if you take away those shin splints, you're already going to be, 50% better, because you're going to be able to pole vault longer during this next season. So figure out how you can correct that. Then let's say that you had that back issue. Oh man, my back's hurt. Okay, well now that one is probably lines up with a technical issue. And that one you can actually start to address, and you can try to figure out, talk to your coach, or, ask somebody, or just kind of look at your video and use common sense and be like, all right, how is this back situation happening and how can I correct it? And then you got your run through issue. Okay, so how can we correct that? So what I'm doing is I'm going through and I'm going from most important and tackling that first, and then the next most important, tackling that, and then the next most important, tackling that. And those things could be injuries, they could be technical things. And then once you get through those things, the things that, hurt you or you could have done better last year, once you get through those things, now you can start to add on new stuff. It's like, all right, now I've corrected my shin splints, I've corrected my takeoff and it's getting better and my back doesn't hurt as bad. I'm not running through very much anymore. Now, what do I want to do different this next year that I couldn't do last year? And then that's where you want to add on, like, oh man, I really want to hit that inverted position. I've wanted to do that for 2 years and I can't do it. All right, well, what are we going to do, that can help you with that? And that process right there is what we've been talking about the whole time. It takes a long time to get through that process. It could take months to get through that process. But that's what I would do, is I would rank your stuff, knocking out the most important stuff first, and then going down to, all right, what are the new things that I want to add on this next year? Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to keep
it
getting
rolling
through some of these. We are at an hour and 15, so we'll probably just try to hit a couple more of these. And
Just keep it rolling.
yeah. All right. This one's going to be, what advice do you have for someone to stay mentally tough, especially during a meet?
You got to have concrete things that you can anchor to. You have to have concrete stuff that are just like things that you can anchor yourself to, that are unshakable and are easy to do. Some of those things should be cues. All right. So your cues should be very specific. Very, very, very specific. Get upside down. Not specific. That's just kind of like, okay, yeah, everybody wants to get upside down. Okay, well, what's a cue that is very specific that you can do that can cause that to happen? One of the ones that I always think about is looking for your top hand in the rock back, and looking at like your feet or your knee at your top hand in the rock back. That is just a very basic, simple thing that everybody can do that can anchor them in meets whenever the pressure's on. And whenever you're in one of those pressure situations and you're panicking, you only got one jump left to make it to state, you're going to really be happy that you have some of those concrete things. Like one of the things that I thought of whenever I was younger at those super high pressure meets was just jump up, see your feet, turn. And those were the things that I really like kind of anchored to. And so like I knew that if I did those things, my body was going to react and fill in the blanks. It would fill in between the stuff, you know? And so that really helped me because it made it seem like much more manageable. Like, oh, all I got to do is that. Jump up, see my feet, turn. Okay. That's not super technical at all.
No.
But it's just really just like that see your feet, though. That one is like a visual one that it's like, okay, you can do that. And the other thing, too, that we've found is that it can distract you from other stuff. There's been a couple times where I have been working with an athlete and they are running through, or they have, you know, just some sort of weird thing happening. And what I do is I'll give them a cue later in the vault. So I'll give them a cue of look at your top hand, look for your top hand. And whenever I give them that cue, they're thinking about that cue, and then they end up fixing the thing before that on accident. Like they just accidentally were like, oh, dang, I got off the ground and I finished my vault. And it's like, yeah, because you were thinking about something a couple steps past where your problem was, and it just kind of knocked some stuff loose and just allowed you to go through that sticking point. And so that's another cool thing with that one.
Yeah. And I think you touched on something about simplicity. Mm-hmm. The simpler the cue is, the easier it is for you to execute. Mm-hmm. And if a cue is not quite working for you, or you don't understand something, figuring out a different way to actually approach it can sometimes just be the easiest thing.
Right.
And I think the eyes are something I've found are super important too. Looking at the top hand, not looking at the bungee. So like giving something instead, being visual there. Also the timing of when you're turning out of it can be determined by the eyes too. If you're staying on your top hand at your legs and you're trying to turn, you can't actually get out of there unless you turn your head as well.
Yeah, right.
If you're playing baseball or football and you're trying to catch a ball, you have to keep your eyes on the ball.
Right.
So the eyes are a huge one when you're swinging, because if you want to actually get your feet to your hands, you got to be looking there.
Exactly. 100%. And becoming visual in your vault also creates an awareness of what you're doing. That's the one. That's a one thing that we come across all the time. Even with the best vaulters, they get off the pit and it's like, all right, so what happened up there? As they're like, I have no idea what happened.
Blank face, no idea.
I have no clue. I was running down the runway, and then I had real good intentions, and then I hit the back of the box, stuck my feet up in the air, and hoped for the best. That's basically what they do, and it's like that's not the best game plan. Just stick your feet up. Hopefully, I make it. No, we got to become more aware of what's going on. And the other thing too is like the closing the eyes epidemic. So many people close their eyes, man. And it's visually a little bit weird. If you're used to closing your eyes, it is weird to open them. And I actually had some really bad visual stuff whenever I was pole vaulting. Like whenever I would rock back and I would look for my top hand, like I would not like seeing the ceiling. Like that bothered me. I would go one particular place there's two particular places that really drove me nuts with being aware at the top and being a visual vaulter. And this is just me. Like not everybody's like this. Luke's not like this. I don't think you were probably like this. But when I would go, I would hate vaulting at U of I. Dude, the ceiling is so high. It's so high in there. And I would rock back and just visually, like I would look at my hand and I would be like, oh my gosh, that ceiling's so high. And then I would just freak out. And I ended up doing okay. I jumped 16 feet in high school there, but I didn't like it at all. The other one was at Vault in the Ville. Like if you've ever been to the Vault in the Ville, they don't do it anymore. It was really, really cool meet. And basically when you rock back, there's like double-decker bars like on each side of you. And when you rock back, it's just like neon lights and a bunch of people, drunk people screaming. And I just, would open up my eyes and I would see my top hand and I'd be like, oh no, like I didn't like that. It's really weird. But I learned how to get through that by practicing keeping my eyes open and being more aware. The reason that happened to me was because I was a notorious eye closer. There was like a picture of me in high school on the front page of the newspaper at plant, and it's just a big giant picture of me with my eyes closed, planting my pole. And I had to practice keeping my eyes open. And the best way to do that is to do it from ultra short. Do it from 3, do it from 4 during this time of the year. Become a visual vaulter during this time of the year so that by the time the season gets here, it's just second nature, and become aware of what's happening up top. Because you can't really change. It's hard to change stuff if you're not aware of what's happening.
Yeah.
I
got a metaphor for you.
Yeah, let's hear
it. So sometimes I'll say this to people that do that, is you got to imagine you're like a fighter pilot going down the runway, and then you hear that, there's a plane over here, jet coming over from the top. You plant and you're like the sights are, you got to lock in right on that top, focus on it, and then you fire at it.
I actually like that. Yeah. So it's like the crosshairs.
Yeah. And they're like, they're like
That's
all over the place.
cool.
No, you got to like lock in and it's stuck there.
Yeah. Like once you lock in on the target of your hand, then once you see the knee or the foot there, then it's just
you got him at that point.
Hit it straight through the top.
I think sometimes
I like that. That's a cool one.
I've said that to a couple people, and when I get like a goofy metaphor like that, half of them just roll their eyes, but half of them it actually works for.
Yeah.
I think goofy metaphors are great in sports.
Dude, honestly, I was telling some athletes the other day, a coach's job is just to throw a bunch of stuff at you and see what sticks. That's basically what a coach does. What a good coach does is there's a bunch of different things that have worked for people in the past, that have either worked for that coach or have worked for other people they've coached in the past. And then they take those same things, they have this bank of cues and ideas, and then they just start tossing them at you. And they start with their most reliable ones, and they throw that one at you, and generally that one will work. But then there's sometimes where there's other athletes where it's like, oh man, I got to dive a little deeper back into the reserves here. And it's like, oh, this one worked for this guy that looked like this person, a long time ago. Then they throw that cue at you, and then maybe it works. And what happens is as coaches continue to work with people throughout the years, different people, then they just acquire a huge vat of cues that they can draw on anytime. And that's why coaching at Rise and coaching in a club, you just become like super coach, like so quickly, because you're coaching so many different athletes, and you're forced to try and figure out what's going to work for this kid. Oh my gosh, none of my cues are working for this kid. And then you finally found a new cue that works for them, and then you get to keep that cue. And then now your bank of cues has just grown a little bit more. And then as you get older and you've done it more and more and more and more, you have so much that you can draw on, That's why coaches that come in here, man, you can get so good coaching at a gym so quickly.
Yeah, dude, I think that's such a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Because like the mark of a good coach is, how simple they can make something and how quickly they can kind of figure out how to relay that information to someone. They can diagnose it and do it. And if you have all this information already and this experience to go back on, you try something, it doesn't work, you instantly know, oh, I can try one of these other things. Right. I like that, the bag of tricks kind of thing.
That's what it is.
Yeah, I haven't thought about that.
It's just a bank. And then the other thing too is another mark of a good coach is that their cues can trick their athletes into doing stuff. Like there's a lot of times where if you were working with a good coach, the coach will be able to tell them something, and the kid will be like, why the hell did he tell me that? And it's like, they have no idea, but I'm tricking them into doing it right. And then they get off the pit and they're like, how did that happen? It's like, dude, I don't even want to explain it. It's too hard to explain. Just go back and do it again. It worked. You become able to trick your athletes into doing things the right way, which is really fun once you get onto that. It's like playing chess,
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's cool. All right, what do we got?
Let's
how long do you want to go with this?
Let's hit a couple more because I want to get some lunch before coaching.
Roger that.
So
yeah,
let's do maybe 15, 20 more minutes.
Doesn't matter to me.
All right. Let's ask a question about Rise here.
All right.
First off is, do you ever plan on opening a second location?
Oh man, that is a really, really good question. And anybody that works here knows that it's something that I've been tossing around for a long time. Basically, you got kind of two options whenever you're in the position like we're in, as far as growth goes, is you can actually three options. You can either try to work towards having one really good location that's big enough and you're able to do all the stuff, like one really solid location, or you can have multiple kind of smaller locations. Or the third one, which requires an extraordinary amount of money, is you can do both.
Yeah.
You can have one big location, or you can have smaller locations that end up paying for the bigger location. But it all kind of boils down to finances. I don't know where I'm at as far as, I know for sure we can make it happen, but I don't know where I'm at with giving away equity in the company for investment, because we would need more cash to do either option right now, just because we're still sinking a good amount of cash into this place. We got to find a cooling solution, blah, blah, blah. But I don't know where I'm at with there have been people who have been like, yeah, we'll invest in it. And it's like, well, yeah, but they want a certain amount of equity. And it's like, I don't know. But I think it would be cool to have another location, but the biggest parameters around that are cash. And then the second one is, coaching. I don't want, if we open up a second location, mark my words, it's going to be just as good as this location. I don't want a drop off. I don't want you to go to the new location and then all of a sudden it's like, yeah, that's the crappy Rise. The real Rise is, in Joliet. That's the real Rise. I would really like it to be like, man, they're both really good and they both have really good people working there. But where are you going to find another, it's hard to find another John Wood or another Luke Winder or another Colby Lewis. I know they're out there, but how are we going to convince them to want to, go on this journey? Because it is a journey and it is a very difficult journey. And you would have to have very committed people that understand the pole vault like we understand it. And, I'm not saying we're geniuses or anything, but it's hard to find people who understand the pole vault to an extent that they should be running a Rise pole vault. If that makes sense.
Yeah. I think we're just at a point where you got to dig deep and get our roots deep before we can actually do that.
Yeah, and that there's systems of, we could do a whole podcast on it, but it takes years and years to figure out the business of a pole vaulting gym. And the worst thing that you could do is to expand without having a very good understanding of what this business entails, and having your systems so dialed in. Systems as in how are people registering? How's your website doing? How staffing, all of those things. It's a lot, man.
Yeah, people don't realize how much Jake actually does.
It's crazy.
And our website is great, but it's because of just how diligent Jake was through all of that. And we have our systems. Anytime, we want to do something, he asks all these questions beforehand. We don't just do something randomly. And he's so good with that. So that's part of why when we open up another location, it would be so good, because he's not going to let things fall through the cracks.
I appreciate that. And the reason why I'm building the things that I'm building in this business the way I'm building them is because I need them to work in multiple locations. I've told you this before, and I think it's a good exercise for any business owner to do. I forget what book I read this in, but I read a lot of books too. That's the only reason I'm, able to, keep my head above water. I didn't go to school for any of this. So you need to run your business and your systems like you're going to have 1,000 locations. And that sounds extremely over the top. That's okay. I like being over the top. But so if we're going to introduce a system and if we're going to do something here at Rise, it's okay, would this work if we had 1,000 locations? Would this registration system work if we had 1,000 locations? Would pole rental work if we had 1,000 locations? That's why PVR was born, was because I was like, dude, the way that we're renting poles right now, what if, 1 year, somebody, what if we had 1,000 poles that we needed to rent? It's like, will these poles rent out? Like, could this scale? And the way we were doing it before is like, no, there's no way. So that's why PVR was built. Now it's like, okay, yeah, the pole rental side, we could run 1,000 locations of pole rental, but we couldn't run 1,000 locations of pole vaulting. And just to be clear, I do not want to run 1,000 locations of a pole vaulting gym. It's just a thought exercise. Because if your system is really, really good, if your systems are really, really good, then you have the option to expand or not expand. But the worst case scenario, if you run the business like that, worst case scenario is you have one really, really well-run location. That's the worst. That's the worst, So that's the way that I go about it.
It's not a bad scenario.
Yeah.
All right, let's ask another question along these lines with the business. What strategies have you used to build the Rise Pole Vault brand, both locally and on social media?
There's a few things that we did with brand. One, like the first thing, I try to think about things. I don't try to think about things. It's just the way my personality works is like, I think about things probably more than I should, like with everything. And it goes all the way down to like our logo and like the coloring of the logo. So like, everyone's always like, well, why is it always black and white? And we do have some color stuff every once in a while, but black and white, it goes back to our motto of simple but effective. What can be more simpler than black and white? The saying like, dude, it's either black or white. It's black and white. It's like, dude, that's simple, but gosh dang, is it effective? Think about it. Like it's timeless. You black and white is the most simple and effective branding. And so I've always liked that. And then like even our, the circle vaulter is the silhouette of my dad, who started, us down this whole journey of pole vaulting and everything like that. So the branding is really important. I think it's important. This goes into running your business like you're going to have 1,000 locations. Like all of that is trademarked. That took a lot of time, takes money to trademark all of that stuff, to trademark that Circle Vaulter logo, to trademark, the words Rise Pole Vault, things like that. So that went into the early branding. And then what was the original question again?
Let me see. What strategies have you used to build the Rise Pole Vault brand, both locally and on social media?
Yeah. And then as far as the brand, like that's like the visual brand, but then the actual brand, like the name, we just wanted to just create the best service possible. I wanted people to come in and be very surprised. Like that was my initial thing is I was like, man, I want to create something that starts from when they first look at us on Google or they find us. Like when they find that result, it needs to be properly formatted. I know that sounds so stupid, but like when they search like what is Rise or what is Rise Pole Vault, and then like they get that result and it needs to be properly formatted and the SEO needs to be good for Rise Pole Vault. And when they click and they see that website, like it's not the world's greatest website, but it's a clean website. And that is your first introduction to Rise Pole Vault is generally to any business is their website. Like, so when they click on it, everyone's done it. You click on a Google link and you get to a website and you're like, oh dude, this is garbage. Like, I'm not going to take my kids here. Or you look at it and you're like, whoa, I did not expect that. Wow. For a pole vaulting gym, that's crazy. Like this is better than my, pickleball place or whatever, or basketball, or yeah, like so I actually looked around at like different like basketball stuff and things like that, and I was like, you know what, I want people to be like, whoa, this is better than like the football league that I send my kid to. This is better than the baseball league that I send my kid to, or the whatever basketball. And I wanted them to be like, wow, that's impressive. That's really good. And so that's step number 1. And then step number 2 is, okay, I've read through the website. I'm impressed. And now I want to sign up. And that's where it needs to be super simple. It needs to be really easy for them to sign up. We need to get all the information that's required. Like, we need to get all that information, but it needs to be really simple for them to sign up. And so it tried to make that registration process and signing the waiver and all that stuff super simple. And then after that, the kicker is, well, there's 2 more. Then after they sign up, then when they walk and they drive up to the building, our building is not the nicest looking building. There's a nice sign that we have now. But my idea was that we have this building, and I kind of wanted it to be like, it's what we could afford. But what I wanted them to do is be like, oh man, I don't even know if I want to open up this door. And then they open up the door and they're like, oh my gosh, I did not expect that.
Yeah.
That's what I really wanted. Like, for them to be like, what? I did not expect to come to this building and then open up the door and see that. And then the kicker, the final nail in the coffin, is somebody's smiling, happy to see them, and fun to work with. Like, the coaches are fun to work with, and they're getting better instantly. They instantly feel like they can get better right off the bat. Like, first workout's like, dude, I know I can get better here.
Yeah.
And that's the branding. And then as far as, that is concerned, that is like kind of my area. And then outside of that, outside of locally, I hired that out to John Wood. So you tell us.
Yeah. So we kind of had this discussion early on about what we wanted the social media to be. And we wanted it to be something that could appeal to all pole vaulters and follows that same level of excellence. So we didn't want something that, we're posting updates about, we're closed because it's a winter storm or something like that. We have a separate page for that. That's our Rise Pole Vault Training Center, but our Rise Pole Vault is something that is just fun. Mm-hmm. People want, it's like you don't see Red Bull posting about their drinks. They post entertaining stuff. So we're trying to have good information that people can learn. We're trying to have entertaining things, and a page that people just want to interact with.
Yeah, engage with.
Yeah. And that's really what we want. We try different things. Like, if you follow us, you'll notice that we may have this kind of series for a while and then that kind of series of different videos. And we're just kind of trying different things out like that and seeing what people want. But, we're always thinking, what is something entertaining and that gives good value?
Right.
I think that's part of it, because then people take that same impression of, whoa, like that's what we want people to have. Just like when they walk in, they're like, whoa. When they see our videos or they see, the way they interact with us online, they think, whoa, this is really cool. How did this pole vaulting gym do this?
Right. And that also goes into like, even like the quality of film and like stuff like that. Cause like we're in the age right now of phone quality film. And like, that's kind of one of the things that you and I both are sticklers on is like, dude, if we're going to do a podcast, I want good mics. I want good audio quality. I want good video. Like, I want all of those things. And if we're going to post stuff on social media, like, there's just a certain standard of quality, and it, and that's the biggest thing that I was like, yes, John is the right guy for this job, because it drives him crazy seeing bad film or bad video quality or bad audio. Like, it drives him nuts and he can't sleep with it. So I was like, that's the guy. That's him. Because you're like me in that, like, where it's just like, oh, dude, like it drives us nuts.
Yeah.
You know, and it's both a blessing and a curse, because sometimes we need to just push something out without it being perfect, which we do, you know. But it's hard for us to push stuff out that's like that doesn't sound good or doesn't look good or doesn't, you know, convey the right message or whatever. And I mean, I'm sure you probably go through many different iterations of those captions that you write and things like that. But gosh dang, man, they've been so good. I personally really enjoy reading them, and that's what it is.
I hope people read the captions.
Dude, you got to read the captions.
I hope so.
Dude, he's spending a lot of time on the captions. Read the captions. Anyway.
Yeah. Which, as a side note, I think I want to do some more like talking head stuff again and get more of our faces in camera and talking through there.
Right.
I just think it's important to get our faces out there.
Yeah, because we go back and forth with this thing when you and I talk. Is it's like, man, you can get a lot of views with like just a slow motion pole vault with, you know, a really good caption, which is, I think, very valuable too. But you know, it's weird. Like, some of the talking stuff might not get as many views, but it gets more engagement, you know, sometimes, a lot of times, you know. And it's fun too. It's nice to see somebody's face and listen to them. And I think we've got pretty good ideas, and it's good to get it out there, you know? But yeah, so what else, what do you think? I know we got to get out of here, but you and I have talked a lot too. There are some things that I think in the next year or so that we like. One of the things is like funding, like putting some funding towards the content. Like, we've obviously funded cameras and, you know, all that stuff, but like, I've always wanted to try to get people here to film with them, like big names.
Yeah.
Like, get them here, do a podcast.
Oh, as a side note, like when we brought in Katarina, we had that whole thing, but when our camera was sitting on the tripod, it fell off. The tripod broke, and it broke the audio. Yeah, you remember this?
Oh,
so we had a lot of
that.
behind-the-scenes stuff with Katarina, but the audio was broken. And I didn't realize that because we had the podcast right beforehand, and the audio was fine for that.
Oh, yeah.
But it broke during all the behind-the-scenes workout stuff.
We did have a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff. I totally forgot about that. Yeah,
that
man, it's hard. And this stuff, like doing this podcast and doing content as consistently as we try to do it, it takes way more work than what people realize too. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of work to be consistent on social media, you know, really does.
Yeah. So if you like this format and you like getting questions answered, you like hearing behind the scenes at Rise and with Jake, definitely let us know, and definitely let us send us some more questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there any more questions, or are we going to wrap it up?
I think we can wrap it up there, and, you know,
we can some lunch.
Get ready for coaching tonight.
Coaching. All right. Well, thank you guys so much. Thank you, John, for all that you do. You're a good dude.
Thanks, Jake.
All right, guys. Thank you very much. And this is the One More Jump podcast. See you guys later.